Welcome back, everyone. No matter where you are, no matter what time it may be, I hope y'all are doing well out there. Before I say or do anything, I want to first thank you for listening. I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me just a little bit of time out of your day. Now, tonight's upload reaches into one of the oldest fears we have as people. The places we build for the dead. Across America, from the hills of Wisconsin to the swamps of Louisiana, there are stories that something else walks among those stones. Not ghosts, not legends carved from rumor, but something made of flesh and blood that still answers to no man. These are listener-submitted accounts tied to real cemeteries, places you can drive to, walk through, and maybe, if you listen hard enough, feel that same stillness these people felt before they realized they weren't alone. Everyone lock in, and let's begin. Grab a drink, lock your doors and windows, hit the lights, and let's get started. Hey, Reels. I know you've heard a lot about Bray Road and the stories out there before, but I doubt many people actually realize there's more to that area than the road itself. I live a few miles outside Jefferson, Wisconsin, not far from the St. Coletta grounds. I've worked maintenance there for 6 years, and until this happened, I would have laughed at anything with the word Dogman in it. The property sits on land that used to be part of an older mission school. There are burial mounds along the back edge of the campus, old, grassy humps that predate any of the buildings. We're told not to mow too close because they're protected historical sites. I'd seen raccoons, foxes, and every stray coyote nosing around those mounds after dark. But what I saw last summer damn sure was not any of those. It was mid-July. Hot, humid, even after midnight. I was finishing my last patrol before locking the tool sheds. I had a big mag light and my little electric cart parked on the sidewalk. The campus was dead, quiet, except for frogs in the pond. As I came up the service road that runs behind the chapel, I saw movement near the fence line by the mounds. Now this may sound weird to some, but others will understand because this actually happens. I thought it was a deer standing on its hind legs trying to reach leaves. The shape was tall, skinny, and almost silver-gray under the parking lot lights. Then it lowered itself, slowly, until it was hunched over something on the ground. I could hear a faint scraping sound. It was very rhythmic, like claws through dry dirt. That's when it hit me. It was digging. I screamed out, "Hey," really loud. I said, "You're on private property," thinking maybe it was a trespasser or someone drunk from the tavern up the road. This thing froze, then turned its head toward me without moving the rest of its body. The eyes caught my flashlight beam and glowed orange, almost a gold color. Same as a dog's eye shine, but the head, it was not that of a dog. It was too large. It was too broad across the crown. The ears tall and pointed. The muzzle was short, but it was thick. I backed up and keyed my radio, but the only sound I got was static. When I looked again, it was standing upright. The mound behind it looked half collapsed, fresh soil coming down the slope. It sniffed the air a few times, then took 2 steps forward, silent steps. But the posture was all weird. The shoulders were moving like something that was used to being all fours, but could easily try to balance upright as well. I won't sit here and lie about it. I ran. I jumped in the cart and took off. The headlights were bouncing all over the place. I didn't stop until I reached the main gate. It all feels like a blur, like a split second. When I looked back, the light was on the shape and it was crossing the road behind me. This thing was extremely fast and it was hunched weird forward. Its arms were long enough that the hands brushed the ground as it moved. The next morning, the security cameras showed nothing useful, just some motion alerts and static bursts around 12:40 a.m. But maintenance found one of the wooden marker posts at the mound split down the middle, like something had crushed it. We logged it as storm damage and forgot about it. About a week later, Father, redacted, asked me if I'd been near the mounds that night. I told him I had. He lowered his voice and he said we've had someone seeing that thing before, decades ago. Then he kind of veered away from the conversation. I haven't done any night patrols since then, but they switched my shift to mornings. I did not complain at all. I was pretty happy about it, to be honest. Every now and then, when I'm unlocking the chapel doors, I can still look out there and get a chill up my spine. This thing was just unreal. It can't be explained through an email. I know people think they know just from listening, but trust me, you don't. I couldn't tell you what this thing wants from those mounds, but I swear whatever's buried there, it keeps drawing that thing back for some odd reason. If anyone has any clues or have heard something about this before, I'd love to know. Jefferson County, Wisconsin. Thanks, Reels. C. Hey, Reels. I'm not sure why I waited so long to send this. Maybe because I live not far from Land Between the Lakes, and around here, you learn real quick what happens when you talk about the beast. People either laugh or they go quiet like you just said a cursed word, which, in a way, I suppose it is. It was May of 2018, near one of those small cemeteries off the Trace Road. Locals call it the one with the rock, because there's this big flat boulder that sits right in the middle of the clearing. It's got cracks running through like it's been struck by lightning a few times. I used to walk there on evenings after work just to clear my head. It's peaceful out there in the daytime. That night I went later than usual, closer to the edge of dark. The air was thick and heavy. It felt like rain was on the way, but the sky was still clear. I parked at the little pull-off and walked the path in. You can see the headstones from the road if you know where to look. Most are sunken, just stones with no names left. My granddad used to say some of those graves went back before the Civil War. Anyways, I was halfway through placing flowers on a grave when I noticed everything had gone quiet. The tree frogs, the cicadas, even the wind, it all stopped. Then I started smelling this smell. It reminded me of wet fur and something like copper, metallic but sour as well. I thought maybe an animal, a deer possibly, had died nearby, and that was the smell source. The first thing I saw was the edge of that boulder. It looked like someone sitting against it. A very long shape, maybe wearing a dark jacket, but it moved. The whole jacket part rippled like muscle under skin. And I saw two pointed shapes and they rose up. Definitely ears. It wasn't sitting, it was crouched. It must have known I was there because it turned its head very slowly, and I could see the profile against the light. It had a snout, eye shine, long arms. It was huge even when it was hunched down. I would say 7 feet if it stood up straight. It stared for maybe 2 to 3 seconds tops, then made this sound that I still hear when I dream. It was low and deep, but wet. Sounded like air being forced through a hollow pipe. That's the best I can describe it here. I dropped the flowers and ran. I didn't even think about the car keys till I hit the gravel lot. When I looked back, it was standing by that rock, full height now, towering over the stones. I could see its fur blowing in the wind that wasn't even there. I got in my car, locked the doors, and took off. It didn't chase me. It didn't have to. Before I left, I looked one more time and saw it walk around the boulder and disappear into the trees behind the graves. It was moving slow, like it wasn't afraid of me or anything else in the world. A week later, I went back with my brother during the day. The rock had some weird scratches on it, deep vertical, straight through the rock like claws had raked it clean. Now, I can't say for sure this was from that creature. A lot of people go out there. It could have been anything. He said it was probably kids with pocket knives. I agreed. The very next month, the county trimmed the trees around the lot and put a small fence across the path, supposedly to keep vehicles out. The sign says restoration area, no entry. I haven't been back since. But if you ever drive through LBL around dusk and see a pull-off with a little white cross and an overgrown path, you might be looking right at it. The one with the rock. I'd just keep on driving if I were you. Callaway County, Kentucky. Anonymous. I would have never done this, but I've listened and I've heard you mention Ohio so many times already in your uploads. So I figured why not stack my story into the mix. I used to work for a small landscaping company that did contract maintenance for Greenlawn Cemetery in Akron. It's a huge place. Real pretty during the day. Rolling hills, old oak trees, all that. But it's different after it gets dark. Everything out there feels like it's watching you. In 2015, we had a job putting in new irrigation lines along the lower road that runs past the old family plots. It was early September, hot during the day, but the ground stayed cool and damp in the shade. We'd been falling behind schedule, so my boss asked me and another guy to stay late and finish a trench run. He brought a portable floodlight and one of those gas-powered trenchers. By the time we got started, the sun was gone. The light was completely behind the hills. The shadows were going across the headstones, making them look like people standing there. I hated it. The machine drowned out everything, so you couldn't hear anything, even though you were trying to talk. I remember thinking how strange that silence felt when the other guy cut the engine. It was like the whole world just shut off. We'd only been working an hour when we smelled it. It smelled like something dead, and I mean something rank. It smelled like old meat left in the sun for a couple of days. This was not your normal rot decay. I did not know what could have been putting off a stink like that. Occasionally there would be groundhogs or raccoons that would die nearby. The smell was nowhere near what I was smelling. The other dude grabbed a flashlight and walked a few yards toward the trees. He stopped and turned around and said there's something in the dirt up there. I followed his flashlight beam about 20 feet away on a small hill where a row of graves sits under a big maple tree. Something was low to the ground. At first, it looked like a huge dog digging. But it wasn't digging, it was pulling. You could see the dirt shifting as it dragged its hands through it. Yes, I said hands. The light hit it full on, and I still can't explain what I saw. This thing's shoulders were massive, the head shaped like a German shepherd's, but very wide. Its eyes were glowing an orange color. I've never seen anything quite like it. Its arms were long and skinny, and it didn't have too much room to reach down before touching the ground. The muscles under the fur flexed like it was built for power, not speed. I can't even describe how big this thing was. The other guy screamed, and that's when it looked at us. It turned its whole upper body instead of just its head. There was something in its mouth. I swear it looked like a piece of cloth or maybe leather. It dropped whatever it was, rose to its full height, and I realized it was standing in front of one of the newer graves we'd filled in just last month. I'm not even going to pretend that I can tell you exactly how tall it was, but the floodlight was 10 feet off the ground and its head came damn close to that beam. It made a noise that hit both of us square in the chest. It was a part hiss, part growl, maybe even a word buried in there somewhere. I'll never forget the vibration of it. We both took off. The floodlight tipped over when the other guy tripped the cord. Everything went black. That didn't stop us. We kept going until we were back in the truck on the main road. He wanted to go back for the equipment, but I said we'd come in daylight. There's no way I was doing that. This guy was insane. The next morning, all the trenching gear was there, untouched. But up on the hill, the dirt around the same grave was torn up again, like someone, or something, had clawed through the top few inches. The caretakers thought it was vandalism. They filed a report, locked the gates after dark for a few weeks, and that was that. I myself quit 2 months later. I still do landscaping, that's my livelihood, but I won't work cemeteries anymore day or night. The worst part is I still drive by Green Lawn a lot. Every time I pass that back road, I look up that hill without meaning to. It's a reaction, an involuntary one. It's the same spot where the big maple is, near Section 23. If anyone reading this decides to check it out, just remember, we weren't the first ones to see it. And I doubt we were the last. Keep that in mind. Ben R., Summit County, Ohio. My name's Ray, and I used to work for the city of Muskogee, Oklahoma. I was the guy who mowed, trimmed, and did general upkeep around the cemeteries. There are a few small ones on the edges of town, but the main one, Memorial Park, is where this happened. It's not an old cemetery at all, not like the ones with leaning stones and moss everywhere. This is clean, well kept, mostly flat with newer headstones and a few big trees along the fence. There's one area I always like the best, the veterans section. The city keeps a flagpole there with a concrete base and a short path lined with plaques. It's quiet, respectful, peaceful. This was the spring of 2019. I was finishing mowing along the north end late in the afternoon. The sun was down low, giving everything that beautiful golden glow. Even the cemetery was beautiful in that light. You could see the pollen floating through the air like dust. I remember thinking how still everything felt, even though there was a breeze earlier that day. The flag rope was swinging. I remember seeing it. It was just brushing against the pole every few seconds. You hear that clink. I thought nothing of it. Who would? Then out of the corner of my eye, I noticed it wasn't swinging randomly. It was moving like someone was pulling it down and letting it snap back up. I thought for sure a kid or maybe one of the visitors was messing around. I killed the mower, took my earbuds out, and called out, "Hey, you're not supposed to touch that." I was met with silence. I was met with not a sight of anyone or anything, just the path leading toward the oak trees. The rope kept moving. I walked over, a little spooked, but figuring maybe the wind had wrapped it up. But when I reached the pole, the rope was taut. It was held from the bottom. I leaned down to grab it, and that's when I saw the hand. Not a human hand. The skin was blackish, gray, leathery, and the fingers were very long, too long. It had nails. They weren't fingernails, they were claws. It was gripping the base of the pole right under the lip where the concrete meets dirt. I jumped back, and the hand vanished so fast it was like it melted into the ground. I heard this low, scratching sound from behind the hedge line, just on the other side of the path. I was slowly backing up, trying to get a look, but whatever it was had already moved. The rope started swinging again, slower this time, like whoever or whatever had let go, and was still standing nearby watching. I could feel the eyes on me, physically. I turned and started walking toward my truck. I didn't run, but my legs felt like they wanted to. I had to fight myself to not take off. When I got to the gate, I looked back, and the flagpole was still there. The sunlight was hitting the brass plaque at the base. I could see something dark crouched behind the oak tree, half in shadow and half in light. This thing was tall, broad-shouldered, pointed ears that was catching the last bit of the sun before it dropped behind the trees. It's the only way I could see anything. If it would have been completely dark, I would have never seen this thing at all. I got in the truck and left like a normal, smart person. I didn't even shut the tailgate. The mower was still idling in the field when another guy came in to finish the shift. He said when he got there, the rope was wrapped around 3 times around the pole, very tight, like somebody had tied it off deliberately. I told my boss I thought vandals were sneaking in, but inside I knew it was something else. I just didn't know how to bring it up or explain it to someone else. Now whenever I visit the section for Memorial Day, I never go near that pole. There's just a weird vibe about that area now. I stay on the paved path, drop the flowers, and leave. You can call it whatever you want, but something about that place changed after that day. The air there feels extremely heavy now, oppressive, like someone's always standing right behind you, waiting for you to notice the presence. I don't know what happened that day. I can't explain it. Ray, Muskogee County, Oklahoma. Hello, brother. I drive for a funeral home down here and, oh boy. This is a point I wish I was AI so I didn't make mistakes. Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana. My job's simple enough. Pick up the deceased from hospitals, nursing homes, and sometimes their homes. Then transport them to the funeral home or cemetery depending on the service. Most nights, it's decent, quiet work. You learn to appreciate the stillness after a while. This happened 2 summers ago in late July. We had a service that ran long because of a storm delay. By the time we wrapped up, it was pushing 9:45 p.m. St. Mary's Cemetery sits behind the old church off Highway 6. Blacktop road, big iron gate, lots of trees. I'd parked the hearse behind the maintenance shed because the driveway was flooded in spots. Everyone else had already gone home. The director, the family, even the groundskeeper. I was the last one out there, loading up the flowers and folding chairs into the back of the van we used for supplies. The frogs were so loud you could barely even think. I remember wiping sweat off my neck and looking toward the headstones, just making sure we hadn't left anything behind. And that's when I saw movement near the magnolia trees. I thought for sure it was one of those stray dogs that usually hang around after funerals. I'm sure everyone listening has probably seen this before. But this thing wasn't moving like a dog. This thing was moving very low to the ground. And then out of nowhere it just shot straight up like a bullet. I couldn't move. I was holding a folding chair halfway into the van. The floodlights by the church flickered twice from the storm, and in that second of darkness, I could swear I saw a shape taller than the fence post. Very wide at the chest. Very long front appendages, which I would call arms. Its head was tilted slightly to one side like it was listening intently. I turned on the van's headlights. The beam hit a row of markers, and behind them, eyes. Not red, not yellow, but a dull, golden glow. It was like light shining through a bottle of beer. They blinked once, then disappeared. I jumped in the van, started it, and tried to just shake it off. I pulled around to the front drive where the hearse was parked, maybe 30-40 yards. That's when I saw it again standing behind the hearse, one hand resting on the rear door like it was inspecting it. Now I'll stop here and say most people probably think I'm crazy for not panicking just yet. But in my line of work, I believe in paranormal. I have seen a lot of weird things. Now the headlights caught the side of its face. It had a very short snout. It had dark fur that looked matted from the humidity, and I could see teeth. It wasn't growling, but the lips were pulled back just enough to show the teeth. This thing was the biggest creature I've ever laid eyes on. It had to be 8 feet easily. I hit the horn without even thinking. The sound was loud and echoed through the cemetery. That thing jerked its head toward me and started moving immediately, very fast. It wasn't running, but it was moving pretty good. It was just these long strides across the pavement. That's when I started getting nervous. I threw the van into reverse and floored it. It crossed that whole open stretch in seconds. When I slammed into drive and spun the wheel toward the gate, I saw it in the mirror. It had dropped to all fours and was running alongside of the van. Its reflection flickered in the glass every few feet. Eyes, claws, fur flashing under the passing light. I made it through the gate and onto the highway. The rearview mirror showed nothing but black. But just before I reached the turn, toward town, I caught something standing in the ditch under the streetlight. It was watching, very still, unmoving. I kept going, didn't even blink until I hit the next intersection. The next morning, I came back for the hearse with my boss. The back door handle was completely bent, like someone had tried to pry it open. He thought it was vandalism, someone tried to break in. I didn't say a word. That week, the groundskeeper told me he'd been hearing dogs out by the maintenance shed every couple nights. Except these weren't barking. He explained it as a very deep growling, and they were pacing and circling. Nowadays, it's changed me in ways I can't describe. I try my best to not even do anything, any type of moving at nighttime. People ask why, and I just say I prefer the sun. The truth is, I've seen the kind of thing that moves when the lights go out around that cemetery. And whatever Dogman is, it's not resting in peace. I've seen apparitions many times. I've seen what you or most people would probably call demonic entities. I've saw a lot of weird things in my line of work. Had a lot of strange, unexplainable experiences. But these things are something different. I don't think they are paranormal or supernatural at all. I think these things are flesh and blood. I think they're too smart, too intelligent, and we haven't discovered them yet. Hopefully, someday there will be an answer to all these questions. Thank you, Reels, for taking the time to read this. I hope you decide to share it. D.H. Friends, legends, family. You know, every time I read stories like these, I start to wonder if these creatures are drawn to something that we as humans can't see. Maybe it's the quiet. Maybe it's the way those places seem untouched by time. Or maybe they're just comfortable standing among things that don't talk back anymore. I don't know. All I know is these cemeteries are real places. You can find every one of them on a map. The people who wrote these emails, they still avoid those places after dark, and I don't blame them. I would highly recommend not seeking out these places and going there. Not a good idea. That's why I usually try to not add specific locations. You get these rush hour Rambos that try to go out and prove themselves.
Not a great idea. Just don't do it. Anyway, if you've had an encounter of your own, with Dogman or possibly something else, something you can't explain, send it to me directly at my email. Tell me what happened, where it happened, and what stayed with you since. My email will be linked in the description below this video. Legends, thank y'all again for being here. I appreciate the support. Everyone stay safe out there. I love each and every one of you. Until next time, my friends, watch over your loved ones. Keep your head on a swivel. And as always, good night.